Hi guys, welcome to the SetrocJC channel on YouTube, and also I've just started doing some podcasts as well, so I will leave a link to both of these in the description below. So as regular listeners will know, we have a set topic every week, and this week's topic is cryogenics. If you're regular, you're probably thinking, why does he want to talk about this? He normally talks about stuff like the Olympics and the Apprentice and how annoying cyclists are, but no, this week we're going to go something into science, which is something new for me, and the study and art of cryogenics. So for those who don't know, cryogenics is the art and science of extremely low temperatures. I think we probably all have heard of this as it's already been done a couple of times in films, so the science has already been proven, one of which is the film Demolition Man, for those 1993 video film watchers, where we successfully saw two people brought back to life from being frozen, namely Wesley Snipes, the well-known actor, and Mr. Sylvester Stallone was brought back in order to sort him out, because those people who haven't seen the film, Wesley Snipes was a bad criminal, and in a few, I don't know when it was based, it is in the future, I think it's a few hundred years, crime, drugs, and general evil had been wiped out from the world, and even though Wesley Snipes was put in stasis, there's some sort of power cut, so obviously power was no good back in the future. They didn't have no generators in the future apparently, so he was defrosted prematurely, I suppose you'd say. He started causing havoc in the future world because he was obviously a hardened criminal. Why they froze a hardened criminal anyway, I've no idea. Didn't they see this coming? They froze a hardened criminal and they thought, oh, we'll just freeze him up, and then so he's been defrosted. The police in them days in the future are soft. They don't know how to deal with criminals really. They're not used to it. They're a bit Nancy Fairy. So they have to defrost Sylvester Stallone, who is like a hardened copper from the times of Wesley Snipes, and he has to sort him out. I don't want to ruin the film, but they obviously wouldn't have defrosted him if he couldn't do it. Okay, so that's clearly an example where in film and in fantasy world it is possible to do cryogenics and bring someone back from the dead when they've been frozen, but in reality, I think I've done some research into this, and I think it's only been done once really with a whole body, and this was done back in 2002 when a famous baseball player called Ted Williams had his body frozen in order to be brought back in a few hundred years' time, or whenever they can actually figure out how to do it, because one of the stumbling blocks or the hurdles, you might say, in cryogenics at the moment is that once they've frozen you, they have no way of actually safely bringing you back to life, because they haven't figured out the technology yet, which for most people would be a bit of a well, what's the point then? But I suppose with scientific advances, especially what we've seen in our lifetime, even there's no reason to think that in the future it's not possible. So he's been frozen, and interestingly, I've been reading up on it, and when he died, he actually said he wanted to be cremated. Apparently, he had discussed it with his children that he did want to be frozen cryogenically, but when in his last will and testament, he actually said he wanted to be cremated, but his children went against his wish, or two of his children, should I say, and said that they wanted him to be frozen. And incidentally, his son, one of the ones that wanted him to be frozen, also died in 2004, and he was frozen as well. So I think their thinking was that when they all die, hopefully it's sometime in the future, don't know when, 100 years, 200 years, they would all be back together as a family. So after looking at all this research, I thought to myself, would I have this done? Would I want to be brought back to life in a few hundred years' time? Would I have my whole body frozen, or just my brain frozen, or what would I have done? Well, after thinking about it, I thought to myself, well, I suppose it depends how long you're going to live, because my family, touch wood, generally live to their mid-80s or mostly into their 90s, so would I want my whole body frozen when I'm in my 90s? Well, no, of course I wouldn't, because if it's anything like my body now, as the years are going by, I can see things are slowly breaking now. So when I'm 82 and I've got arthritis and my heart's probably not as good as it used to be, and I can't move, I've got a bad back, why do I want to be brought back in that state? I know that I suppose technically that they might be able to sort that out in a few hundred years, but won't they just be strapping bits on or strapping on new parts and stuff like that? I'm not sure I want an old top half with old grey hairs on my chest and new muscly legs or arms attached, strapped onto me like some sort of robot. And also, what if they do freeze your brain? What are you going to be thinking like? Because surely an 82-year-old or a 90-year-old thinks a bit differently to someone in a few hundred years' time. Do I want to live another 50 years of the brain of an 82-year-old, having 82-year-old thoughts about when I'm going to sleep next and what I'm going to eat for lunch? And when the snooker's on telly, are they even going to have snooker in the sports I enjoy in a few hundred years? There's an idea for anyone that's studying medicine at the moment or wants something to do for their PhD. They should come up with a way of like bringing your brain back to life and then rolling it back like they can like a computer or an operating system, so that you can live your life again from when you were like 20, or you have the thoughts of a 20-year-old and stuff like that. Maybe you can't remember all the stuff that's happened to you after that. See, that would be worth doing. They should bring you back to life when you're 82 or whatever you are when you die and say, right, we've brought you back to life, Mr. SetrocJC. When do you want us to roll your brain back to, so that then you can carry on living from that point in the future when they've got different cars? And are we living in the bloody? Are we flying around in cars in the future? Are we on Mars? We might even be on Mars then. Imagine that. They bring you back to life and you're living on Mars, and it's like, bloody hell, I can't even come back to life and live in the same planet. I'm now on Mars going around in some sort of module or something like that. Yeah, so they bring you back to life when you're like 20. You've got all the thoughts of a 20-year-old. You're young, you want to get on with it. That'd be alright. That should be part of the package. And also, surely one of the stumbling blocks here is that even though you've been frozen in, like, say, 2013, surely in a couple of hundred years' time, what's the incentive for them to bring you back? Why do they want to bring you back, other than to like question you on what was like back in them days? It's like, why would they want to bring? Oh, do they have like a CV? Do you have to fill out like a questionnaire and a CV before you die about what you can bring to the new future world? It's like, oh, what can you bring? Well, I've got quite a good education. Yeah, it's not as good as the education now, though, is it? No, probably. So you've got what have you got memories of? Well, I was born after the war, so I haven't got memories of that. And so you're giving us nothing, basically, Mr. SetrocJC. You're giving us nothing. Why should we bring you back to life? You've got 5 minutes to persuade us why you should come back to life over Mr. Williams, who played baseball and was bloody good at it, and he was during the war. He was doing war things. So why should we bring you back to life over him? It's like, well, so even in death and even in the future, people are looking at your life and judging you and saying, no, you're not good enough to come back to life. What if it came to that? How depressing would that be? You have to prove that you're worthy of being brought back to life, because as Cryogenics and as the years went by, they decided they were going to freeze millions of people, and now you have to fill out some sort of checklist to prove that it's like a job interview. It's a job interview of the future. I'm not sure I want that. So imagine this. You're brought back to life when you die. You die before your missus or whatever. You're brought back to life in, say, 2200. They decide to bring me back to life. I've proved my worth. I've managed to beat another million candidates to the prize of being brought back to life. And you get your new body, you get your new brain. I've been rolled back to when I was like 25. Everything's brilliant. And then you walk into this room and your missus is there. And they say, oh, surprise, yeah, we've brought your missus back to life as well. And you're like, are you kidding me? I'm 82 years old, I've been married for like 60 years, I've finally gotten bloody freedom, and you've brought my missus back to life as well. Now you've got to live another life with your missus. You can't get divorced because it's part of the contract. It's like it's a game show. They brought you back into this game show. It's like this really sadistic game show where they're saying, right, this is the rub. We were going to bring you back to life, but you've got to live with your missus again. Imagine that. That'd be like, that's another life sentence of it. God, Jesus, are you kidding me? One minute the outlook's brilliant, you're new again, you're fresh, and then they hammer you down in one swift blow by saying you've got to live with your missus again. That would be an interesting question to put on their questionnaire before you froze them, wouldn't it? Would you want your family to be frozen with you? I wonder how many people would back off then and say, actually, no, don't worry about it, mate, you saved the freezer for someone else. Put me in the ground. Hi guys, thanks for listening. Hit like if you found this video entertaining, and please hit subscribe to hear more from me in the future.